Hey folks, how's it going? So today I'm going to be making a turmeric tincture, and I figured you might like to learn how to make a turmeric tincture. So let's do that. So you're going to need some turmeric, and then you're going to need some vodka, jar, basic stuff. This is so easy. People overcomplicate this too all the time. And I'm going to put gloves on because, it's going to stain your hand. There is nothing funnier. At least I think it's funny. I mean, the people living through that reality don't think it's funny, but when people are like, I'm going to do a turmeric face mask, I'm like, don't do it. And then they're like, for 7 days, my face was like this orange yellow color. I'm like, yeah, so I don't want my hands to be that color. So I am basically going to do something super fancy here. Cut up my turmeric. That's really all there is to it. You don't need to peel it. You can scrub it, wash it if you want, if it's real dirty from the store when you got it. Alcohol kills, right? So into the jar we go. You just want to give this a little bit of a chop. You don't need to like pulverize it or kill it. You just want to give it a little bit more of a surface area to extract from. Turmeric, most people know if they're watching this, turmeric is, become super popular in the past, 4 or 5 years or so, maybe more. She's been used for thousands of years. She's pretty good as an anti-inflammatory, for digestive support, for general like immune support. People use her for cancer, all kinds of stuff. I don't really buy into the notion of superfoods, and I don't think that like any one herb can like replace like how we eat or the stress we live in or the chemicals we are bombarding our body with, but I do think that they can be good companions to change, good companions to health. But turmeric tincture is super easy to make, and you can get these fresh roots. Like I ordered these from like Azure Standard just because they happen to have them. But I live in a food desert in a really rural community, and I see turmeric at my local store every now and then. So you can probably go out and find yourself some fresh turmeric at the store. You could grow it if you live in the right climate. But that's it. I'm just gonna chop her up, put her in a jar. Now, this is optional. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to put, I don't know, half tablespoon into here. You could do more if you were doing a larger tincture, a little less if you want to, or you could just opt out to not have the black pepper. The black pepper basically, in theory, helps your body absorb the, that thing really goes in there. Still didn't get it. I'm just going to pretend like I did. Helps you absorb the properties of the turmeric, but really she's just a good synergistic herb in the way that pepper is going to increase like your circulation and like the digestibility of food in general, right? So when you add that with turmeric, she's really fantastic for like supporting like cardiovascular health and getting your circulation up and going. Like if you have cold hands and feet all the time, and so you don't have to add it if you don't want to, right? There's no rules here. Not really. I mean, that's the cool thing about when you work with fresh plant matter. You don't have to be obsessed over the ratios, which is really funny because when people talk about using dried plant matter and like high proof alcohol, like in the 100% alcohol range, no water at all, they are literally having to follow all those steps so they can mimic working with fresh plants. Now, I know that the pepper wasn't fresh. I understand that, but the turmeric is. And so I'm not too worried about it, and it doesn't have to be exact. So now I'm just going to pour 100 proof vodka over top. And I'm going to pour it all the way to the tippy top. I'd rather spill a little than have air left in there. And I use 100 proof vodka. That sounds like it's really strong, right? I use 100 proof vodka because it's 50% alcohol, 50% water. That means I'm getting not just the alcohol soluble properties out of turmeric, I'm also getting the water soluble properties, and that's really important when we want to make a balanced tincture. And turmeric is kind of potent compared to other safe, simple herbs. She's not toxic by any means, but because of that potency, when anything's really strong like that, that's when it's like, to me at least, hyper important that I'm having the water soluble properties available first. So I've poured it all the way to the top, and I pushed out all of the air in the way that I've filled it all the way up because I want to prevent oxidation of my tincture. Now, it'll naturally oxidize a little bit when you strain it off, right? But when you have your plant matter in there, whether it's fresh or dried, what happens is you're far more, go away fly, you're far more likely to end up with an oxidized tincture. And that's not the end of the world. It didn't destroy your tincture, but oxidation in general is like rust, right? Like we don't really want to be like eating a lot of oxidized things. And even though tincture is a small amount, it also impacts the potency a little bit. But if you just fill your jar all the way to the top with alcohol, you've pretty much pushed all the air out of there and you'll have minimal oxidation. And it always oxidizes worse when you have fresh plant matter or plant matter in there in general. So now I'm just gonna write on it what it is, because even though turmeric might be an easy one to ID, if you get busy making a ton, you can forget, right? So I'm just gonna write turmeric, and then I'm gonna approximate the date. I think it's something, the 11th of, no, it's November, so that's 11. You know, get an approximate date on there. I know it's November, and I know it's 2024, and that's about all I can say for for my reality right now. And then this is going to sit for 6 to 8 weeks in kind of a cool, dark place, but it doesn't need, it's not a vampire. You don't have to hide this in like pitch darkness. Just don't put it somewhere there's sun, right? And that's about it. Now, if you can't get 100 proof in your state, you can use 80 proof, which is 60% alcohol, 40%, or 60% water, 40% alcohol. And you just need to let it sit for like 10 to 12 weeks. Let it sit longer, right? Because there's less alcohol content there, and then you strain it out and use it. And you're going to be like, what's the dose? Check out my learning how to dose tincture video, because everybody's different. But this little jar right here will last a long time, because remember, when you're using tinctures, it's drops, 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 not shots, shots, shots. So this would last a long time. And, you know, turmeric isn't exactly cheap, but if you just get a handful of roots, that maybe took me, what, like 4 or 5 little roots, this amount of tincture, if you bought it, would probably be a couple $100 or more. But I maybe all in spent $10-15 on the volume that I made, right? So that's pretty affordable for how long it'll last. And there you go. But again, it's great for digestive health. Great for sore joints, really good for supporting immune function, or if you're prone to infections. I find her very warming. So people who are cold all the time, right? She reminds me a lot of ginger in that way, that she can really get your body temperature up, which means by proxy that it's supporting not just your blood flow, but your metabolic function. So like when you're cold all the time, it usually means that your metabolism isn't happy. And a lot of people think about metabolism as like rather being skinny or fat, but it's so much more complex than that. Like your metabolic function is like your whole body, right? Like how well you are existing. And if you have a temperature under 98.6 all the time and you feel cold all the time, it's likely that your metabolism isn't happy, that your thyroid isn't happy, that your whole endocrine center isn't happy. And turmeric is pretty good at supporting these functions, right? So when you start warming up again, you're just supporting your metabolic health, and you may or may not lose weight. The metabolism is so much more than that. It really is. You don't have to be like rail thin to have a healthy metabolism, right? And just because we're thicker doesn't mean that we have a poor metabolism, right? You just have to look at those like core body readings and things like that. But also sometimes people can, like, let's just say your body temperature is fine, but your hands and your feet are cold all the time. That can just be from poor circulation. Like your body isn't circulating things well. Your lymphatic function has slowed down. Your heart has got something going on. Definitely get all that stuff checked out. But I really like turmeric for that, because she can like support like circulation and get things up and moving again, which can, bring blood flow back into your hands and your feet. Because if you think about it, that's the most restricted area. That's the furthest that your heart has to pump blood to, is your hands and your feet. And that's why when people have heart problems or things like that in general, circulatory problems, restricted vein flow and blood flow and things like that, their hands and their feet get cold first. So that's turmeric tincture. It was so easy to make. You're smart enough to do that, right? You can chop up some roots, throw them in a jar, throw in some black pepper if you want to, and then put some vodka over top. Right, you can totally do that. You are absolutely smart enough to do this, and I hope you get out there and I hope you make your own and save yourself some money versus buying all those expensive, crazy expensive turmeric supplements that are out there, a dime a dozen, you know. But we wish it was a dime a dozen. They're way more expensive than that. If you would like to support my capacity to teach freely and dump my brain out and just be a real human, consider becoming a member. It's just a way to throw me a couple bucks a month. It keeps a roof over my head and vodka in my jars and all that type of stuff. There's nothing hidden behind a paywall. As a member, you do get early access to these videos, but if you can't afford, I don't even want you to worry about it because I release these videos on weekends for everybody to watch regardless. And so, you know, that's just a way to help me out. And if you can't do that, or even if you can, make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share. Sharing is super important because it helps other people realize that just like you, they're smart enough to do this. And it just, people just need that little push to get in, and the encouragement to take their health back into their hands, and it can just snowball, and sharing can like change people's lives, right? It's crazy stuff. So thank you so much for watching, folks, and I'll see you next time. Bye.